We're back, and so is Rod Martin. I'm delighted to say, for one more segment, Rod and I have been talking about elections. Elections have consequences, it turns out, one of which is the recent election of Zoran Mamdani as the mayor of New York City. And Rod, I just wanted to take stock with you on an aspect of Mamdani's, first 100 days, and that is that he's made it very clear he intends to see what he can do to advance the Islamification, if you will. Lots of ways to describe that. It's submission at the end of the day of this country to his Sharia supremacist agenda. He went to Rikers Island yesterday, as I recall, to visit and break the fast for Ramadan with convicts, or people at least being held in that notorious prison in New York City. The upshot of which seemed to be, yet another opportunity to promote Islam, to call people to submit to it and follow the precepts and mores and practices of the perfect man, Muhammad. All of which is to say a pretty, diabolical agenda of promoting this toxic ideology called Sharia. What are your thoughts about what Mamdani is up to and the danger that it represents in our country, sir?
Well, to his great credit, he's doing exactly what he promised. He's a Marxist Muslim. I mean, I don't think he could have been plainer about this. He absolutely wants Hamas to win and the Jews to be thrown into the sea. And he's against every single thing you can point at that would secure America. So, he's doing his thing. He's also trying to be Gavin Newsom as far as wealth taxes and so forth. And the net result of that is probably going to be a debacle. If we continue winning at the national level, that gives cover to states like Florida and Texas that are doing really, really well on all the same issues. And that gives New Yorkers who have a financial interest Mamdani is threatening a chance to move here and prosper. And we're seeing that. It is shocking.
Here being Florida, for example. Yeah.
Yes, it is shocking the degree to which major financial firms are moving to South Florida and to Dallas. And we're about to get a new stock exchange in Dallas that is a sort of a joint project of BlackRock and Citadel. So you've got both sides of the aisle there. And the whole premise is we're not going to be woke. We're not going to hit you with all the regulations you suffer under at the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. Come here, better capitalization, cheaper. And
I'm not sure I trust BlackRock on that agenda. Do you?
Well, BlackRock likes making money. So, they went in with Citadel on this. And of course, they're not the only ones, but they were the lead investor along with Citadel. So you've got Republicans and Democrats both there seeing an opportunity to shift capital markets meaningfully. And it's very much like Delaware. Delaware voided Elon Musk's pay package that had been voted on by the shareholders twice for no legitimate reason at all. And it did ultimately get overturned, but not before it did a great deal of harm to Elon Musk, and I would say the shareholders at Tesla as well. So why would you ever incorporate in Delaware again? The whole point of incorporating in Delaware is they have an incredibly predictable business court system. Same is true in New York. It's the financial capital of the world, but will it stay that way under a Muslim Marxist? Absolutely not. And the brain and money drain out of New York into Miami, Palm Beach, and Dallas is irreversible.
Wow. Very, very interesting and portentous, I think, for the people of New York City who may be left to the tender mercies of Zoran Mamdani. One of the other things about Mamdani, and I'm not so sure he was all that transparent about being a Marxist. He certainly made it clear he was a democratic socialist, which means he's a communist.
Which is the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But he didn't so much talk about his particular strain of Islam, which is Shia and Twelver. And that means, as you know, Rod Martin, that he embraces the official theology of the Islamic regime in Iran, and therefore is with them on this apocalyptic prescription for bringing back the Mahdi, the 12th Imam, the Messiah figure, by essentially destroying everything in order to usher in the golden age of Islam. That would seem to be a problem on any number of fronts, but it also ties into your assessment of what's happening in Iran at the moment. You had on your rodmartin.org site an interesting essay that the revolution is coming to Iran. By that, I think you mean, hope for its liberation. Talk us through that, if you would, as you see it at the moment.
I think we're getting there. And look, the issue has been, how could you possibly affect a regime change without boots on the ground? Well, technology has advanced a little in the last 20 or 30 years, just a bit. It turns out, yeah, we can decapitate the regime. Yeah, they've got this mosaic defense that a lot of people, I think, are overly impressed with, but that defense still needs intel that it can't get. It still needs direction that it can't receive. And in the absence of those things, not to mention its radars, they are shooting blind. And they've got some pre-programmed targets, which apparently include hotels in Dubai. But that isn't going to score them any points. That's not going to help them win. And so, what is happening? Well, the war took an interesting turn over the weekend when we started doing individual drone strikes on Basij members at checkpoints in the streets of Tehran and all kinds of just remarkable things. You'd normally, there's a whole movie, Enemy at the Gates, which isn't that great a movie, but it's got amazing people in it and it's worth watching. And it's about the snipers dueling in the Battle of Stalingrad. Well, that's how you had to do it. If you wanted to take people out in detail like that without a giant army, you had to send in snipers everywhere. And nobody has that many snipers. But we can do it by remote control now. So, okay, if you get these guys who will shoot Iranian protesters on site in the streets, if you can get those guys out of the streets, either by killing them or by raising the chances of death sufficiently high that they just don't go out into the streets at all, the Iranian people can rise. And I believe we've got a pathway to a democratic, free, and by the way, give it 15, 20 years, first world Iran.
Yeah. And you've talked about this as a huge investment opportunity. Obviously, we have to get there. And like you, Rod, I was very encouraged. The piece of it that I don't think you touched on there, but I understand is a factor, is that the Israelis have apparently come up with QR codes or other means whereby people in Iran can queue the targeting of those, sometimes just one or two or three, Basij guys holding up traffic and shaking people down or killing them, perhaps. There's no doubt about it. To the extent that that becomes really hazardous to their health, I think it's going to be an impact on their performance. They also lost their leader overnight, as I understand it, as well as Lalari, one of the other very, very bad guys in the Iranian firmament. So the attrition is continuing apace, and I pray to God that it will result in, as you say, ultimately the revolution that liberates the place. Talk to us very quickly, if you would, about what that looks like, Rod. I understand that at the Conservative Political Action Conference next week, Reza Pahlavi, the so-called crown prince of Iran, is going to be one of the featured speakers. Is your betting on him coming in some form or fashion as at least a transitional figure, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I thought he was the right guy a year ago or more. I know we have friends who disagree, but since this has all started, his is the only name getting chanted in the streets of Iran. Now that's not quite true because they're also chanting the names of Bibi and Uncle, by whom they mean Trump. But yes, Reza Pahlavi seems to have the support of the people, and that's important because the main alternative is something called the MEK, and they're kind of a Marxist cult-like thing that we really, really don't want taking over Iran.
Right. Well, and I guess they've got some of the Islamist trappings as well. It's maybe a Mamdani kind of operation. Who knows? But it's very poorly thought of, as I understand it, from the people of Iran. So, Rod, any idea how we get there from here? This process of attrition leading to a transition to a Pahlavi, for example, perhaps?
I think there's some critical mass beyond which, if there are few enough Basij forces in the streets, the Iranian people act. And that decision most likely is going to be made partly in the White House and partly with Reza Pahlavi and his team. Pahlavi has made clear, stay in your homes, don't get shot, wait for my signal. And the last time that he did something like that, when he did signal, the people rose in mass. So I think that's what we'll see.
Rod, we have to leave it at that. I'm afraid so much more to talk with you about. We look forward to doing so next week. In the meantime, thanks for your help today. God bless you, and the Rod Martin Report, rodmartin.org. I hope the rest of you will join us for more of this program on the other side of a very short break. Stay tuned.